powerful with a malicious mighty rank. So overnight from Saturday into Sunday there was a massive Ukrainian drone attack on the Crimean bridge, as a result of which traffic on the bridge was blocked. And this is probably the biggest event of the night. Here we have confirmation both from observers and from those who live there. Due to the drone raid, traffic on the Crimean bridge is blocked, according to reports from those monitoring the bridge. The message says that vehicle traffic on the Crimean bridge has been temporarily blocked. We ask those who are there and in the inspection area to remain calm and follow the instructions of the transport security staff. It is reported that the attack on Crimea began around 11 o'clock. At first, drones were flying over and there were sounds of air defense systems in action. And a few minutes later, Simferopol was hit. Simferopol experienced a powerful explosion, so it's not just an attack on Crimea or the Crimean bridge, but on Crimea itself. There is also video evidence. Some sites are being actively attacked here. And again, there is direct confirmation from witnesses. That is missiles, drones, anything you can imagine. All of it is coming, flying, and hitting the Crimean bridge in waves. And it is reported that around 1 in the morning, drones reached Kerch, where an explosion occurred near the Palace of Pioneers. Then there were 10 more explosions more, and as a result, the Crimean bridge was closed. Now, as I said before, although there were some protests there, by the way, I don't know why, because, well, logically speaking, it's clear that if a logistical blockade is set up around Crimea, and the only supply line left is the Crimean bridge, then most likely there will be an attack on that bridge. And now the possibility of such an attack is already being tested. Again, this route is being left open, so to speak, and most likely it will be struck. Maybe not, but in any case, from a logical point of view, and especially from a military one, it looks quite likely. By the way, write in the comments, what do you think about this? Because the situation is complicated, and again, what are the Ukrainian authorities planning to do about all this next? Well, there are several options there, and we'll see how it all unfolds. We'll discuss this in a few other videos. Now there's some more information, not about Crimea, but it's related. How much it's related, you can judge for yourself. It turns out that Iran has once again announced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. They're blocking a bridge here and oil there, nothing is moving anywhere. In general, something extremely unpleasant is happening for the whole world, because as a result of these disruptions, prices for absolutely everything keep going up naturally. And the dynamics, or let's say the volatility of the political situation remains, well, just as volatile. So, what's going on over there? We've been told the Strait of Hormuz will be closed to shipping, as announced in a widely distributed statement by the command. This is the central command of the Iranian army, and on Saturday it announced that the strategically important Strait of Hormuz is once again closed in response to Israeli attacks in southern Lebanon. Trump has already spoken with the Israeli authorities, and he spoke by phone, making some rather loud statements expressing his indignation toward the leadership of Israel. But as we can see, that didn't help. Israel continues to stick to its position, so the two allies have ended up, well, not exactly enemies. Nevertheless, right now, on one side of the scale are the interests of the US, and on the other side are the interests of Israel. Israel doesn't want to stop its attack on Iran, but it's extremely beneficial for the US to stop all this now, before things get worse. Today I just read an article saying that for Trump, even with all these losses in the war and information that about $300 billion will be spent on restoring Iran's infrastructure, it's still more profitable, more advantageous to continue the war, because the further it goes, the worse the situation gets. And oil prices are rising, and as for Trump, some countries are already openly mocking him. And from the European Union, there is also bewilderment, like, what are you doing, really? So, originally this was supposed to be a quick, victorious little war, like, Tehran in 3 days. As a result, nothing worked out, and that's when Iran showed what it was capable of. This really wasn't a mirror response. There was a reaction, and in the end, you could say the US lost politically and economically, considering how much money they put in there. And now Iran is saying, yes, let's destroy, or rather dilute, our nuclear stockpiles. Right now they have enriched uranium there, and they're saying let's dilute it, but in the end it's all just promises. Well, maybe they'll sign a couple of documents even with golden pens, but even if they do, how can you check if they've really diluted those 45 tons or however much Iran has? Is there enriched uranium now or not? But overall, all of this is being carried out half-heartedly. As for Iran, in response to the bombings, they say that blocking the Hormuz Strait is the first measure. And this is a response to violations by the enemy. If aggression continues, additional measures will be planned and implemented to force them to fulfill their obligations. This is stated in Iran's statement. So the war continues, and there Trump says that within 60 days, if Iran doesn't stop its war, then we'll take action. In fact, even Trump's closest associates are already saying that's enough, although they are dissatisfied with the agreement currently being implemented with Iran, and its terms haven't been shown to Israel. We only know general info, just the tip of the iceberg. And there's much more beneath the surface, just like with the rare earth metals agreement with Ukraine. We kind of know what's supposed to be there, some money is being distributed, some funds, but it's all actually much deeper than that. And it's unlikely that any ordinary person will find out about the fate of this agreement, or what is supposed to be transferred from Ukraine to the US in the next few months. Apparently they're supposed to transfer a lot. And that's not all, but you remember, right? Here comes Germany, Ukraine's closest ally. Germany fully supports everything there. That's why suddenly Zelensky started demanding from Portagenos Merz the return of Ukrainians to Ukraine, but so that the rest of the Decabras could keep growing their needles. And how did Germany respond? Well, Ukrainians are good, of course, but let's establish cooperation with Iran. Since we don't have enough economy here, we'll supplement it with migrants, not just any migrants, but let's say labor migrants from Uzbekistan, and this is not a joke. Germany and Uzbekistan are strengthening their ties. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm speaking about this in an absolutely neutral way. It's just surprising that they're talking about Ukrainians here. Like, yeah, you guys do your thing over there. We'll just hire people from Uzbekistan and you go ahead and fight your war. Did we promise you any benefits or anything like that? No, of course not. And in the end, here's what happens. The volume of trade between Germany and Uzbekistan is growing. German investments are increasing. And what's most interesting is that the volume of trade has reached 1.4 billion. And German investments in Uzbekistan presumably have reached 2 billion. That is, they exceed the total trade volume. In addition, the countries are expanding cooperation in the fields of education, labor mobility programs, and business. And the federal president of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, said in a conversation that the changes that have taken place in Uzbekistan are opening up new opportunities, and for deeper alliance between Germany and the European Union. That is, Central Asia is now in the spotlight. Ukraine as a combat unit, in other words, keep fighting there so that Russia doesn't do anything bad to the European Union, even though it didn't seem like it was going to. Let's have Ukraine stay separate over there. And now we'll quickly establish trade relations with Uzbekistan, although logically they should be doing this with Ukraine since it's such a close ally. They even call Friedrich Merz the Chancellor of Ukraine now. And Zelensky is there on official visits almost every day. But something went the wrong way. Steinmeier says, I'm very grateful that over the past 20 years of my career, I was able to contribute to bringing our countries, Uzbekistan and Germany, closer together, as well as to the development of relations between the European Union and Central Asia. At first it wasn't easy, but now, apparently, it's easier. And now both political dialogue and trade have started. And everything else possible. Plus, Germany is betting on the workforce from Uzbekistan. Apparently, earlier labor migrants from places like Syria, for example, didn't help much. And now the focus is on the workforce from Uzbekistan. The following is being said. Germany recently signed an agreement on migration and mobility with Uzbekistan regarding the labor force. Why? It is intended to facilitate the recruitment of qualified specialists for the German labor market. Among young Uzbeks, there is a traditionally strong interest in Germany. Currently, more than 400,000 people in Uzbekistan are studying the German language. And more than 2,000 students are already studying at German universities. Well, here, these very two presidents of the two countries are planting a fir tree. And the leaders supported plans to hold the second University Forum and the third Uzbek-German Medical Forum in Tashkent. Well, Ukraine is at war. Well, that's how it is. Well, they have to fight. But what is Uzbekistan supposed to do? And that's not all. That's it. Biden still has... Not Biden, my God, but Trump. I keep calling him Biden. and vice versa. So Trump is having difficulties with the European Union. He barely had time to quarrel with Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister. He immediately demanded that the European Union pay back all the money spent on weapons for Ukraine. Both the funds themselves and everything else, just give it all back, because regarding Ukraine, says the US President, still Biden at this point. Here, I'm not mistaken. Before Trump, Biden sent $350 billion both as financial aid and as weapons and everything else, so please return it. Europe is in shock. Europe doesn't know how to respond, but nevertheless, Trump stands his ground. He says the following: European countries should compensate the United States for the $350 billion spent on military aid to Ukraine. It was provided under the former American leader Joe Biden. The current American leader Donald Trump stated this. He also said, "We gave you, think about it, $350 billion worth of planes, weapons of all kinds, and more. Money me." But what? Well, this is just surprising. I mean, if a contract was signed, it's not just some casual thing like, give me a ruble, here's a ruble, go have a drink or something. Well, $350 billion, that must have been legally formalized somehow. If so, you need to act according to the terms of that contract. If not, well, without paperwork, you know. You see, we're all nobodies, so even a contract, if it doesn't exist or only exists verbally, especially on a state level, it means nothing. Well, they gave it, and that's that. Well, thank you. We'll keep working with these $350 billion, huge thanks to Biden and now Trump and everyone else. Trump is making some strange demands. Trump also stated that there is no proper accountability for American aid to Ukraine, and he estimated the US contribution at more than 300 billion. Europe gave about 100 billion, and then he said that the US has already spent 350 billion. And he called Zelensky an excellent salesman who convinced Biden. Well, I think it's about time to make some kind of movie or series with Zelensky where all this is told, revealed, and the truth is uncovered. Additionally, there is US dissatisfaction with Zelensky himself. Then suddenly, Finance Minister Bessent told Zelensky that he shouldn't be allowed into the White House. He allegedly tried to dissuade Donald Trump from receiving Zelensky at the White House. Plus, he sharply criticized the Ukrainian president and spoke out about him. He supposedly called him Mr. Bean under the influence of various things. Well, there were a lot of insults in general. There were a lot of insults from the finance minister. At the same time, before Zelensky's very first visit to Washington, Scott Bessent and some representatives of the White House were concerned that the meeting would end in conflict. And in fact, their concerns were justified. That's exactly what happened. There really was a conflict. And let me remind you, at that time, Zelensky was kicked out of the White House empty-handed, both literally and figuratively. In other words, they didn't even let him eat. They said, sorry, goodbye, we're friends with you, but we'll keep lunch for our own people. Wonderful. And now, in general, you can see how the world has already entered as obvious a phase of instability as possible. That is, it's hard to imagine a more unstable world. Well, maybe only after a nuclear war. Right now, there is no unified position in Europe. In fact, there isn't even a single diplomatic service as such, because Kaja Kallas is already about to be dismissed. She, talks about her own things, I was going to say, about women's issues, about what's important to her. And she doesn't take into account the opinions of other members, just the members of the European Union in general. She just voices her own universal idea. And she considers it the ultimate authority, the true final authority. The President of the United States doesn't have a good attitude toward Europe. Melanie doesn't have a good attitude toward the US. Everything there has become so topsy-turvy. How can there be any peace talks? Who will make those agreements? Who will sign them? Honestly, this is just nonsense. But now Zelensky has decided to destabilize the situation in the world even more, and he's picking a fight with Lukashenko. More precisely, to start a conflict with him, a conflict I've already talked about. But in his evening video, he recorded another message to Lukashenko. He said the following: "We know about every factory," said Zelensky, and he spoke about Belarus being drawn into Russia's war. He explained that the Ukrainian armed forces know about 4 relay stations located on Belarusian territory. According to Zelensky, they help Shahed kamikaze drones strike the northern regions of Ukraine. There's a whole selfie video and lots of stuff here. We'll listen, but of course we won't listen for 5 minutes. He says the following: Belarus has time to dismantle this equipment, meaning the repeaters. And we also know, meaning Zelensky, about every factory in Belarus that works for Russia. I'm curious, an ice cream factory that produces ice cream and sends it to different countries, does that mean it's working for Russia? So, if a Russian, for example, eats Belarusian ice cream or the delicious Rogachev condensed milk, does that count as working for Russia? We need to find that out and also do a tasting of these companies so we can decide who to punish later. So, Ukraine says it doesn't want this, doesn't want to drag Belarus into the war, but we've actually warned the leadership of Belarus, which influences the relevant events. And here we're being told about an attack from Belarus, although before that, again, I made a video about this topic. Zelensky himself said that if you don't remove those repeaters along the Belarus-Ukraine border, then we'll punish you in every way and explain that this isn't a threat of war. Honestly, I don't understand how that's not a threat. Maybe you understand, dear viewers, so write in the comments. Maybe the Ministry of Rhetorical Questions will help us figure it out. That's also possible. And now we're calling on powerful leaders who will definitely help us understand everything. And the first one we'll send to support the leaders is this character, Tuku, who dances to the song, Tokina Taku. Victory to you, victory to you, victory to you, victory to you. It didn't work. Yes, there is still no victory, even though it is regularly declared and from both sides. But now let's see what's happening. So, for example, we have a notable guy who said that there's nothing scary about war. Of course, you can also grow a beard like that during the war without any problems at all. Well, you crawl around the base with that beard and it just grows by itself. And where's the TV here? There it is. He talks about how there's nothing scary about war at all. That was just yesterday. Or rather, in the video I showed, well, yes, yesterday, how a couple of those fake barbershop guys were saying that dying isn't scary, and then they admitted themselves that the last time they held a firearm was back in 2022. And they themselves are somewhere near Kyiv, launching those drones remotely and telling everyone to go to war. It's like I showed on my Telegram channel, for example, there's some singer, her name is Aliona, well, there's probably a singer named Vasya, and this one is Aliona. And this girl, so where is our Telegram channel here, right? Says what you need to do to avoid problems with the draft office. They did, let me think, what is it called? The word slipped my mind. Well, basically, roughly speaking, to avoid bad behavior from their side, so as not to provoke the TCC, you can join the army voluntarily. Why? As for this girl herself, it's absolutely impossible to understand why they joined the army voluntarily, but apparently there are some reasons. Probably, as always, her friends try to talk her out of it and tell her, "We need you here more, your songs." She raps. By the way, that's some rap, baby, and apparently it's considered quite valuable for the Ukrainian state, but actually it's not. Well, let's take a look at this. Is that a Canadian lumberjack fox? Some stories mention people coming alone. They smiled at each other, just wonderful mutual understanding at its peak.
A 20-year-old girl joined us recently.
Where did she join? Did she get in the car? There are TV shows, excuse my language, and movies where a girl is picked up on the road and then all sorts of things happen. I don't know, honestly, what he means where this girl supposedly joined up. By the way, this red-haired girl sitting above, I mean sitting higher than the red-bearded guy, she used to be the host of a show with an erotic theme. Of course, various thoughts arise about what they're discussing and what's happening.
A little one, for some reason she's that height, a little girl, quiet, she'll never say anything.
Well, of course, that's not Aliona. I'll say it again, of course. If she's small and fragile, that's not about her. It's a pity Aliona could have joined that red-bearded Viking.
Right now I'm a real warrior, you know.
Like, oh my god, when will you finally stop using that trash word, like...
She came to the position, just well done. No one expected that such a fragile girl would have such an iron will. I mean, when people have character, I mean, when people...
So what did she do? In the army, of course, you need character. But if you go into battle, then what did she do? Did she go out and start yelling at everyone or what? Or did she stand her ground powerfully, showing her character? Or what did she do? She was crawling powerfully through the trench.
When a person is afraid, that's when the sergeant's experience can really show.
What was he trying to say? I have no idea. Why did they let him in? He should have taken better care of his beard instead of performing like that. That was just chaotic. The girl, the attitude, some sergeant. What is even going on? Seriously? But there's another one also acting like a Cossack like this. This one looks more like a thug and he talks about all sorts of things. And you should also go try your hand at war, he says. Apparently he downed a few bottles outside his building back in the day, and then he thought, damn, I should go to war, maybe things will be better there.
Go, you have to try. Sitting around and hiding won't help.
It's all the same. Is this Ukrainian or Russian, which is forbidden? What's happening? Where will this go? You can't hide forever. Hennedy is telling us, for some reason wearing a helmet, sitting in a bunker, that he won't be hiding all his life. Obviously Hennedy, whose exhausted face is clearly visible to everyone, has a deeply reasoned and well-argued opinion that you can't hide all your life. But can you do it under a helmet or not? And why does he need a bulletproof vest in this outfit? What's even going on? Am I missing something here? Another one. This isn't a bunker, it's obviously a studio now. This is in Kyiv, after all. For some reason, the young man put one hand on the table. What he's doing with the other is completely unclear, but his face is cheerful, so he probably likes it. If an assault trooper did it to a queer, you'll be an assault trooper. We need different kinds of real people. We need different kinds of people. Great training, probably cooks, yeah, head chefs there for Michelin-starred restaurants at the front. Well, I see, with different specialties.
I don't regret or complain about ending up in Kupiansk with a helmet. I'm proud. Things aren't always as they seem. There are many rumors. My family mentioned it. I have to.
You have to.
They look so exhausted, honestly, I don't know. Especially this guy, well, the warrior is clearly number one. Across the whole front, along the entire line, you won't find anyone more powerful and stronger than this guy. Well, that's how it is. You see confusion and turmoil in Europe, the US and Ukraine. There's the bombing of the Crimean bridge. There's the bombing of the Zaporizhzhia hydroelectric power station. There's a dissatisfied Europe and the US. And by the way, among the latest rumors is that Starmer, this wonderful friend, comrade and brother of Zelensky, will most likely announce his resignation soon. He's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, so, well, let's wait and see what happens there. Why is such a talented person leaving? What happened? After all, the UK economy is just booming. It's developing at a tremendous pace. Well, I mean negative, but still developing, and honestly, I don't understand why he's being fired. He should be given some high-level position with a huge salary. We need to thank him. Thank the man for raising his country. That's all. Goodbye, everyone.
What about Telegram? It just exists, that's all. But where, what, how, it's hard to figure out. We have big channels and don't know who's behind them. There should be some regulation. Users of this network deserve protection and guarantees. Those sharing information should be accountable. I don't see why similar channels can't exist in WhatsApp. Should it be totally uncontrolled? No, that's not right. And I really don't like it when even some of my friends write, oh, knives are dangerous because you can kill with knives. Let's ban all knives. They should be controlled to some extent.